It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. Today we are sitting down with the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, I guess, former superintendent, Kathleen Fleener, who retired on the 31st. So she's starting the new year off retired. That's awesome. Right. Thank you for being in here today, and congratulations.
Thank you for asking me.
So we talk about, retirement. It's here. Your December 31st was your final day. How long were you in education?
Kyle, I've been in education for 48 years as an educator. Mm-hmm. You could probably say it's in my genes. My parents were teachers, and I had a lot of aunts that were teachers. I had a great uncle that was a teacher back in Civil War days, I think, somewhere I'd have to look. So. I've been in education for 48 years, started out as a teacher, then went back to the University of Wyoming. At that time I lived in Wyoming. Got a master's. You have to have a bachelor's to teach, of course. I went back and got my master's in administration, and then worked on from there.
Well, you mentioned, a long line of educators in your family. Is that something that you knew from being a little girl, that you were going to get into education?
No, I think I was probably like any other child. I always told my parents, I'm never going to become a teacher. You know how you tell your parents, I'm never going to stay at home, I'm never going to do what you do. And my parents would just say, oh, okay. My mother told me at the time, years later, that she knew I would go into education because when I was in grade school, she was a second grade teacher. I would go into her room, and students would stay after school, just like they do now, if you need to help them a little bit. And I loved to go in there and help her second graders when I was in like 4th and 5th grade. So she told me years later that she really felt I would go into education.
She saw that in you early then,
right?
Huh? So now, are you from Wyoming? You mentioned you were there.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where I went to school and where I went to the university. I later on, as I came to Arizona, I took classes from NAU, doctoral classes. So
when did you come to Arizona?
I have to stop and think. 1987.
Okay. And did you come right here to Cottonwood or Clarkdale?
I was in Yuma with the Crane District there as an administrator for until 2002, and then I came up to the Verde Valley in 2002 with the Clarkdale School District.
Okay, so you've been with the Clarkdale School District ever since.
Right.
So now, you mentioned you were in teaching beforehand out in Wyoming. What grades did you teach?
I started out in a rural school. I was there for 2 years. It was a K through 8 rural school, and those children then, when they finished 8th grade, they would go into the school in town. And after 2 years, then I moved into the town school. It was actually where I went to school, went to high school as a child. The town, it was Wheatland, Wyoming, which is north of Cheyenne, about 25 miles north of Cheyenne. So I went in there and taught in the Wheatland School District then for several years, and taught 6th grade and high school. And my parents were both still teaching there at the time.
Oh, really?
That was a little unusual. And then I ended up going back to Laramie to get my master's to go into school administration.
Okay, so you was that something you always wanted to do? Once you got into education, did you know that eventually you were going to end up into the more administration side?
No.
No, really?
I think it's kind of like you start that journey and you want to do one thing. Just like I never said I was going to be a teacher. Well, when I started teaching, I loved it. And then through my years teaching, I was fortunate to work with some really good administrators who encouraged me to go into administration. I think they were my mentors, and they would say, you might think about administration, you might like it. And I went into administration as a teacher. You have the opportunity to touch the lives of 30 children every day. As an administrator, you have the opportunity to touch the lives of, especially in the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, because we're so small. When I was the principal superintendent there, I could touch the lives of 480 children every day.
Wow.
You know, and you can, as a teacher, you just grow yourself, but as a superintendent principal, which is what I was, you can help 23 teachers grow. You can help 20 support staff members grow. You can work with the school board. So your world broadens. And I think it was the appeal of that to be able to maybe help change more than just my classroom in a positive way that encouraged me to go into administration.
So for you, how did you know when that time was going to be? I mean, when you knew you kind of finished that teaching side of it and wanted to get into the administration and kind of help that larger group?
I think when I felt I had crossed that education hurdle and I was confident in myself as a teacher. I think before you go into administration, you want to be able, if you're going to ask a teacher to do something, you want to be able to understand it and model it. And I think when I felt I was at that point as a teacher, and with the encouragement I got from colleagues and mentors, I thought, okay, I'm ready to take those classes to go into administration and come back and help teachers grow. So that's when I decided.
So December 31st was your final official day. Now, what are you doing right now? Are you still connected with the district in any way?
Yes, I am. I would be called, I guess, administrative consulting. The person who replaced me is Scott Jacobson. He was hired 2.5 years ago by the school board and a committee, and he came to us from Pine Strawberry as a teacher. So the idea was to bring him in as a principal and give him some time to get his feet on the ground. You know, Scott's fully certified in administration as a principal and as a superintendent. Those are two separate certifications you have to have. I'm assuming for your job there's probably some different certifications you have to have. So Scott came in. He's been at the school district for 2.5 years. And then he transitioned, I transitioned out as the superintendent, and Scott transitioned in as the principal superintendent, which was what was my former job before Scott came on January 1st. Right now I'm an administrative consultant for the district. I go in 4 days a month just to help with transferring over sign-ons for the Department of Education, sign-ons for grants. Through the years, there's been a lot more paperwork and federal accountability that you're responsible for. And of course, just like your banking account, you have passwords for everything, and it's assigned to certain people. And so we have to make sure we have all those I's dotted and T's crossed. Yeah,
man, passwords for everything nowadays.
Right.
Man. Okay, well, we're going to take our first break. We're sitting down with Clarkdale-Jerome School District former Superintendent Kathleen Fleener, talking about her retirement. Last day was on December 31st. When we come back, we will continue talking about the district and just kind of what her plans are for the future. That's coming up in a couple minutes.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. That's about a 30% increase in 2 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
I heard you dropped art class. What happened?
Life happened. I'm too old for finger painting. You guys going to Haley's thing tonight?
Totes, time to get trashed. That was for your eyes only, Brian.
Baby, if you send it to me, it's public property. Speak for yourself. Live above the influence.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with former superintendent of the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, Kathleen Fleener. And she retired on the 31st, and we're just kind of talking about her time in education, what led her here, and here in a minute we'll get into the actual district and talk about the success that they seem to have on a regular basis. But for more information on the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, a good website is cjsd.k12.az.us. There's a ton of information on there for any of the schools. Also, a good phone number is 634-5035 for more information. That's just the district number there. So we talked about your background before we went to a break. As far as the district, like I said, it traditionally has really high marks in education. What do you attribute that to?
We're really proud of that. When I first came in 2002, the district was underperforming. And I knew that. But the teachers at that time had not had a lot of direction in looking at what instructional needs the kids had. And so we started with the area of math and pulled up to highly performing that next year. In that time, that was the labels. I mean, it's all about labels now. And since then, it's just been working together as a group to move what do children need, what do teachers need, how do we provide that? How do we identify those children that need some additional assistance? How do we provide that? We started after-school tutoring that first year when I got there, and we concentrated specifically on math. And then as the math started to take off, we rolled into reading, and it's been going well ever since.
Yeah, you know, it seems like from kind of an outside standpoint, it would be difficult to get. When you're talking about just all of the administrators and teachers and everyone involved in the education process in a district, it seems like it'd be difficult to kind of get everyone on that same page to turn around, just the success of the district.
Right. Once you get a sense of that success, and I think any administrator that goes into a district, there's a little bit of well, let's wait and see on this person. I'm sure. When you started here, you probably had colleagues that were like, well, let's wait and see how Kyle does. But once you get a sense of, okay, this is how we can all work together to help children, I mean, everybody gets on board. The advantage of Clarkdale-Jerome is it's a K-8 district. It's small compared to some of the other districts here in Yavapai County, and especially on this side of the mountain. Beaver Creek would be another example of a small district. But in a small K-8 district, it's easier to reach out and touch all of those teachers. It's easier to reach out and touch all of those children as opposed to a much larger district. And I think that's helped. It's helped a lot.
I mean, you talk about really with the success you mentioned when you came in, it was the district as a whole wasn't doing as well, but I mean, relatively a fast turnaround. Right, for that. So I mean, I guess the fact that you have that kind of small, just like we talk about small communities, you have those relationships are it's easier to touch more people, I guess.
Right.
So now when you guys were looking to bring in the new superintendent, came from Strawberry, you mentioned, was that kind of something that you wanted someone coming in from another smaller area, smaller district, or would it be more difficult for someone from, say, Phoenix to come in?
No, I think it was more the personality. Okay. Scott's personality matched our district, was what we felt. When I was going through grad school, I had a really good professor, a mentor, who said, a teacher is a teacher. In other words, if you had the qualities to become a teacher, you were going to be a good teacher. And you couldn't take somebody who didn't have those qualities and make him a good teacher. He felt the same way about administrators. A principal is a principal, a superintendent is a superintendent. If you have those qualities within you, and you're going to come out. Those qualities are going to come out with a little bit of support. And the interview committee and the governing board felt that Scott had those qualities to blend in with our district. So,
well, in terms of education, I mean, there's kind of a lot been in the news a lot. Education, you know, is always seems like it's always in the news. Throughout your career, can you talk about some of the changes you've seen in education over your years?
Wow. Yes. I think the saddest thing, there's been a lot of wonderful things, and I'll touch on those in a minute. The saddest thing for me since I came to Arizona is that since about 2007, if you go back and look at what the legislators have done and what's been in the newspapers, from what they have said, the respect for public schools has dropped. Our Yavapai County representatives get it. I'm not sure the representatives in Maricopa County get it. It saddens me because they don't see children as a treasure, as a resource. They're our greatest resource. You know, I've always felt that. And that started in about 2007. When I came to Arizona, funding for Arizona we were 32nd or 34th in the nation. Now we are, depending on which study you look at, we're either 48 or 50th. And that, I think, to me, that's been the saddest thing. On the positive side, the greatest thing I've seen is all of the educators in the state it seems like, are banding together to try to help one another. The communities, the public. The public is really supporting education right now. The community members, the parents, you know, they want to see children funded. They want to see children have opportunities. Let's support our children in Arizona. Now the governor has come out with Prop 123, which will go to vote on May 17th. And so hopefully that will bring some funding in. So I think the fact that there hasn't been financial support for education since 2007 has caused communities to band together to say, let's get financial support for education.
Well, we saw that this past November. I mean, there were several districts here just in our area in the Verde Valley, I mean, even over in Prescott, but that had special elections with special, either it was bond approval or, you know, an override or whatever it was. And we saw in many cases the community backing that. Exactly.
In Clarkdale-Jerome, we have been fortunate to be able to renew our override. This last vote was the third time. And, you know, and that's due to public support. It's due to community members saying, okay, we feel this is important. And a lot of our community members are not, they're retired members, just like I am now. But they believe in the school and they believe in the children, and they're willing to pass those overrides. And it's important to have that support.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. Well, we got to take our second break. When we come back, we're sitting down again with former superintendent of the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, Kathleen Fleener, who is retired. December 31st was her last day. When we come back, we'll see if she has any plans or if she plans on staying here or leaving. We'll kind of touch on that when we come back in a couple minutes.
You make me wear my bike helmet. Taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with former Superintendent Kathleen Fleener. She was with the Clarkdale-Jerome School District, and we had just covered her basically entire career, what she's seen, some of the changes in education throughout her career. And you mentioned Prop 123, something that I think is going to be, people are going to be hearing more about here in the coming weeks and months. And can you just maybe touch on that a little bit more?
I can, as much as I know. Arizona School Boards Association and the governor's office have said they're going to release the details, the facts pamphlet that the voters get whenever there's an override or a bond issue. That has not been released yet. From what I know, the vote will be on May 17th. It'll be a vote of the public, and those funds will strictly go for education. It's not like, you know, sometimes you elect people or whatever. That is a special election, and if it's passed, those funds will go for education. From what I understand, the funding will come from public trust lands, which years ago were set aside to help fund education. So the funding will come from the sale or the sales of that money that's been put aside to help fund public education. The legislature has talked about putting in some of their rainy day funds. A lot of that is still kind of up in the air, but those facts will be out. And as far as I know, it's not a tax. It's allowing the legislator and the legislators and the Arizona government to use those funds for education. But there will be more facts coming out. My guess is probably within a month, those flyers, and we'll see more information in the newspapers.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I think, like you mentioned, coming weeks and months, we'll be seeing more, and the public will be seeing more about that Prop 123. So we have about a minute left in the program, but real quick, now that you're retired, any plans?
Well, I plan to stay in the Verde Valley. I'm sure I will be in education in one way or another, volunteer basis. As I mentioned, some consulting, probably for the rest of my life. And I kid people, it's the people I've worked with at the Clarkdale-Jerome School District for the past 13 and a half years that, you know, they'll probably see me coming to school with my walker, you know, saying, how can I help? So I think I'll be, it's in my genes, it's in my blood. So I will be helping in education in one way or another for the rest of my life. But I also plan to enlarge my circle. There's wonderful people here in the Verde Valley, and I've been so centered in education, I haven't had a chance to work with people outside that circle. So I want to expand my circle now that I'm retired.
Great. Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for coming in and sitting down with me today.
Thank you.
Kathleen Fleener, former superintendent of the Clarkdale-Jerome School District. That's Countywide. We'll see you next time.